everybody. Welcome to episode 315 of Good Luck High Five.
That's right. You're listening to a podcast that's for people who play Magic the Gathering. Whether you're sitting at home in your computer...
In your computer. Ooh.
Jamming some Magic
meta.
Arena, hopping down on that battlefield, incarnating yourself as a creature, planeswalker. Or you're sitting around a table with some friends, or even heading out to your local Grand Prix or, FNM or other. We're here for you.
I'm one of your hosts, Maria.
I'm another one of your hosts, Megan.
And on today's show, my gosh, can I just say, first of all, I'm really glad we started a news podcast when we did.
Yes, we did. Because, oh man,
wow.
The land of news is busy.
It is just, if the land of news was a busy city street, we would be in the middle of downtown New York in Times Square at midnight when they're dropping the ball.
Yeah, that's right.
On New Year's Eve specifically.
Except that it's like a Groundhog's Day for New Year's Eve, where it just keeps happening and over and over. Every day is New Year's Day.
I mean, there is so much news in the Magic world that we're going to have to stuff some of it into this show too, because
that's right.
We can't not talk about it. So we're going to do a deep dive on all the news that's happened in the past week, specifically revolving around the Mythic Invitational for Arena.
Yes.
Which got announced recently, and a bunch of information related to that, and happenings and controversy and wild stuff
and formats
That's
and
arena.
One of the less exciting parts.
Yeah. But still also a controversial part.
That's right. We'll also have a standard corner for you.
Yeah.
Where we're going to tell you all about what we've been playing on Arena recently and enjoying.
Yes.
Or not enjoying.
Or not. Yeah. Specifically, I have not been enjoying the deck Meghan's playing.
Hint, hint.
What could it be?
And then we're also going to try out a new version of Flavor Text Theater.
Yes. Very excited about that, where we crack a pack of Ravnica Allegiance and have some fun with it. And you'll be the first to hear this brand new Flavor Text Theater.
Will it work?
We don't know.
Until we try.
You'll have to see right along with us, or hear, as it were. But before we start the show, a big thank you to everybody who helps support us and everything that we do on patreon.com/GLHFmagic.
Yes, if you are already a patron, we have so many thanks in our hearts.
Oh my gosh.
Our hearts are completely full of thanks.
As we said last week.
Yes, and luckily, thanks are good for hearts.
That's true. Doctor recommends thanks. At least one thank a day.
For your heart health.
Keeps the doctor away.
Yes.
That's probably true, actually.
That being thankful is good for your heart?
Yeah, people say that if you practice gratitude or something, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like laughing, right? They've said
for
that.
sure laughing. Yeah.
So, we're out here trying to do what we can for your heart health as well.
We're not a medical podcast.
But we are looking out for your heart health.
Yes. And you're looking out for ours, too, by becoming a member on Patreon. And I just want to say that it means a heck of a lot, even more if you become a patron right now for Good Luck High Five, as we might be having a little bit of trouble making ends meet financially. And you becoming a member of the show is a way to help us stay buoyant, stay keeping what we do, doing what we do, and not just completely, not being able to buy groceries or something in a month.
To be completely honest,
we're just being real with you here.
Things are kind of tight right now. Not related to the podcast, but perhaps related to other parts of our lives, which we can't talk about.
Yeah. So it would mean your pledge right now would mean perhaps even triple what it normally does. And if you get anything out of the show, if you'd like to see it continue, please go over to patreon.com/GLHFmagic and please help us out. We're just going to level with you. We really need your support right now. And it would really also mean a lot to us. So if you like what we do, put your money where your mouth is, essentially, and help us continue to do what we do. And we'll continue to do what we do for you.
That's right. Thank you. And shout out as well to Card Kingdom, cardkingdom.com/GLHF. They are the place to go. If you want cards, if you want boosters, if you want singles, which is the same thing as cards, so I said it twice. And
specifically single cards.
Yes.
One at a time.
One at a time cards. They very kindly have sent us the next box that we'll be doing for our Hot Chip Challenge, a box of Ravnica Allegiance. So you can check that out on our channel in the coming weeks. big ups to them.
Yeah, Card Kingdom, I've never heard a single bad word said about them anywhere on the internet. And
Literally
that,
not.
I think, is the only thing I've never heard a bad word said about anything on the internet.
Because people like to say bad words on the internet.
They sure do, but nobody has about Card Kingdom because you just literally can't.
Nope.
You literally can't. But yeah, check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GL/Good Luck High 5. I almost messed that up. And we've got new video content out there 3 days a week. Our board games channel is youtube.com/GLHF Board Games. What review we post this week?
We posted a game that we all call Real Dank.
Why do we call it that?
Because the actual name of the game is Railroad Inc. And the first time that we all played it, one of the players at the table misheard what was being said.
We're playing
and thought that we
Real
were
Dank.
playing a Real Dank game.
I love it. I love it. Speaking of 3 days a week, we also stream 3 days a week on twitch.tv/GLHF
Were we
Magic.
talking about 3 days a week?
Yeah, because I said we put out videos 3 days a week.
Oh, gotcha.
On YouTube.
Okay. Speaking of 3 days a week.
Name your favorite 3 days of the week in order from first to third.
Oh, wow. Great question.
Thank you.
Friday.
Yep.
Saturday.
Yep.
Oh.
I thought you were just going to go straight through the weekend.
Thursday?
Ooh, Thursday. Hot take. Hot take.
It really
Why
is.
Thursday?
Do you know what? I just like Thursdays.
You know, because Friday's coming.
Exactly. Like Friday's coming. Thursday tends to be a day that I don't have as much on my schedule.
Yeah.
Like I tend to front load the week. And so Thursday is just like a nice breather. Usually
Cool down.
That's my one free evening. Sometimes. You know, burning that midnight oil.
Yeah.
Burning the candle at both ends. Burning the midnight candle at both ends.
Ooh, midnight candle. Anyway, let's talk about magic.
Let's.
All right, let's do a deep dive on the Arena Mythic Invitational coming up next month.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
I almost didn't believe it when I said it.
Literally next month
at PAX East. It's a giant tournament that's going to be used to showcase Arena. It's kind of the kickoff of what I would call Wizards of the Coast's kind of a big Arena push and kind of, I would say, tilting themselves towards Arena.
Yes. They are creating a slide down which they can slide
into a big Arena ball pit.
Yes.
As it were. But yeah,
Ooh,
so
I was thinking of like a splash pool.
a splash pool.
Anyways.
A big Arena splash pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've kind of just seen this kind of shifting of their focus. And we've seen that, you know, through the creation of the MPL and now this big tournament.
Yes.
So let's talk about the basics of this tournament in case you haven't been up to date on what's going on. And really, if you haven't, who cares? It's a lot of information and a lot to keep on your toes about.
So there's 64 people at this Mythic Invitational.
Okay.
Which includes the 32 of the MPL.
Yes. Minus Ray Sato.
Yes, that's true.
Who cheated and so is gotten a slap on the wrist.
Yes.
Okay.
Then there's another 28 spots. Nope, that's not. That math is
Don't
bad.
look at me.
24 spots.
Math is for blockers. Come on.
There's another 24 spots that are invitationals. Why are my
Invite
words?
slots.
Invite slots. Thank you. That are for different streamers and personalities in the Magic community. And those were announced last week.
Yes.
There's a lot of familiar names like Gabby Sparts, like Kenji, people who are out there who are streaming all the time. And and then also some lesser known streamers.
Yes.
Which is pretty cool to see. And then there's also going to be the top 8 players on Arena as of noon on Thursday, February 28th.
Yeah.
So the top 8 constructed ranked players.
Top 8 at Mythic level.
Yes.
Obviously. Wow. This is, so it could be anybody.
Yes.
And there's some people out there who are trying.
They are shooting for it.
They're shooting for it. And I mean, I guess go for it if you really want to do this because the prize pool is incredible. It's the biggest prize pool Magic has ever announced.
Yes. So it's $1 million for the prize pool for this event.
A cool mill.
Yes. Between 64 people, $250,000 to the winner.
That's like 5 Pro Tours or something.
Yes. Yeah. And then you get the lowest payout is $7,500. You can come in
so much money.
You can come in dead last in this tournament.
You could just show up, lose, you're out, and you're like, thank you, goodbye. I'll take my $7,500.
I played 2 rounds. And we know that would be 2 rounds because it's double elimination.
Double elim.
So if you go lose, and some people will show up and go lose.
That will happen.
And they'll walk out of there
with $7,500. And you get to be at PAX because you get like a badge, and I think you also get a badge for one guest. So
nice.
You can go hang out in PAX. So like win-win. Win-win-win in this situation.
Win-win-win, even if you lose.
I love it. Yes.
So there are more of these coming.
Yeah.
But those ones, this is the only one with those invitational spots.
Yes.
Right now.
Yeah. So the next Mythic or Arena Mythic Championships will just be the MPL battling it out, plus people who qualify for this tournament, much like people used to qualify for the Pro Tour or whatever. We just don't know.
But how are you going to qualify? Who knows?
Nobody knows.
Because you know what? It's not like that's important information for people who want to qualify.
Ooh, Megan, are you sitting under a willow tree right now? Because I saw some shade.
Willow trees do cast maybe the most shade.
They do, and they're one of my favorite trees.
They're very pretty.
They're very pretty.
Hey, did you know?
Ooh, tree fact?
This is going to be a tree fact. So we just had the polar vortex here in Minneapolis. For those of you who don't know, if you're newer to the show, we're in Minneapolis.
Yes.
And the polar vortex rolled through last week. We canceled 2 days of our streaming because it was literally too cold for us to be in the office.
It was too cold in here.
It was too cold to drive.
Yeah.
Driving across town the Tuesday before, my teeth were chattering in my car, and that was like a 15-minute drive tops. And at the end of it, I hurt.
Negative 48 below with wind chill.
Yes. So anyways, but one of the upsides is that the emerald ash borer is a really problematic invasive species.
Yes.
And people are saying that it's going to decimate that population of emerald ash borers because it was too cold for their larvae to
All the larvae
survive.
were like...
And you know what? Usually I would feel bad, but those suckers can get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here, emerald ash borers. Don't bore our ash.
It makes me so sad because there's plenty, like trees in my neighborhood that get cut down. There was a tree in front of my house that got cut down because it was emerald ash bored.
He got bored.
I'm so emerald ash bored right now.
We're so bored of you, emerald ash borers.
That was your tangent about trees.
Great tree fact.
Trees, invasive species, and winter.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about the shade I was casting on how people don't know how to qualify.
I mean, okay, so like this is very important, right? People should be able to learn this. And Magic has responded by saying like that we're figuring this out as it happens. There's a lot of new information. We're trying our best or whatever. And so this information I think has been promised to us by the end of the month. Yeah. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's what it is. And then, but you could also have the opinion that you shouldn't be trying to build the airplane in the air.
Yes. But you can also have the opinion that that's a fine way to build an airplane.
So let's talk a little bit more.
I was going to say, sorry, on that kind of track, one of the people I was super excited to see on the invite list for this coming Mythic Invitational was Andrew Ellenbogen, who is a recent winner of the PT. And it was really cool to be like, I can understand how it could have been a disappointing feeling to be like the winner of one of the last PTs before they swap over to this new thing. Yeah. So that was an invite that made me really happy, kind of acknowledging like, hey, you recently won what used to be the biggest deal. Yes. And even as we move away,
now we have
there's
new
still
bigger
room
deals
for those people.
So I'll just take a moment to touch on. We're going to talk about this later, but you mentioned it. So Andrew Ellenbogen got invited, as did the winners of the past season's Pro Tours, except for Pro Tour 25th anniversary. And that has some people pretty sad, and understandably so, I think. I feel like if you're going to invite a category, you should invite the whole category.
Yes.
I mean,
even if you look at it and you're like, that's 3 whole people.
I mean,
because that was a team event. Right. But yeah, it still is like, because we won a team tournament, which a lot of players look at, and it's so difficult to win a team tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have to beat... If you're facing down a team of Hall of Famers, which the winners of PT 25th anniversary did, you have to be really good across the board.
So that was a snub for the invitational list. A couple of other big streamers, in fact, the two what I think are arguably biggest Magic streamers, Jeff Hooglin and Caleb D, were not invited. We don't know why, but they were left off the list.
To be fair, no one knows why or how
That's true.
These groups of streamers were chosen.
And a lot of people were kind of upset because of the arbitrary nature of the invitations and who they decided to invite.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's an invitational tournament. And Wizards can invite whoever they want to an invitational tournament.
That's very true. And that's certainly, as you can probably imagine, how we feel about some of the invites.
Yes.
Looking at them, and it's just like people who are like, oh, you're only inviting some of these women because they're women.
Yeah.
Guess what, buddies? They get to determine the invites.
Yeah.
It's an invitational.
It's an invitational.
Based on their
That's what it is.
qualifications.
That's what it is.
That Wizards sets up.
I think a lot of people have, there's been some criticism thrown at some of the women who have been invited and that kind of thing. And that's totally classless and like, just don't do it. It's not their fault they were like invited to this tournament. Of course they're going to say yes. It's an amazing opportunity. And like, just be happy for the people who didn't. And I think it's fair to be happy for everybody who got invited and to still have a problem and be like, oh, I wish these other people could have been invited too.
And I wish that you can also wish, as I certainly do, that there had been some clarification around, hey, this is what we were thinking. Like, hey, here's a set of streamers. We looked at this bracket of this many viewers and we picked a handful to support the people that have been streaming forever, right? When you look at like Gabby and you look at Kenji, people who have been streaming forever and have huge audiences, but we didn't want to make it all those people. So then we looked at like another bracket of streamer who's like people who have been doing it consistently for a while, and then people who are newer to it. If that's how you did it, great. Yeah. But tell me that so that I look at it and I know. Yeah.
I think too, my other opinion about this is that I love the idea of doing an invitational. I think it's great to show off Arena. And if you want to do a wacky format like this one kind of is, go for it. I, however, think that you might have had a better time with this. This is just a marketing PR move. If you said, let's put the invitational a little bit later in the year after we've had our, pro level MPL, like big tournament where we pay out the $1 million. We do it like you've got legit qualifications and all this kind of thing so that you have that. And then you have your invitational. Would I make the prize $1 million? Probably not, because I feel like that's kind of where some hurt feelings are coming from too. I would make it, good would be, and fun. And I wouldn't invite probably all of the MPL. I would say the MPL that are like fan or community favorites, like let's have Reed Duke play in this tournament or something like that. Yeah. But, people who can have a good time when they're playing and not necessarily just the spikes of the MPL or something, so that they're not just destroying our poor community members.
Yes. Which is certainly a worry that I also have. I've thought about it a little bit.
It's gonna happen.
Exactly. And I hope that when we all watch the MPL or the Mythic Invitational in March, that you remember, if you're watching community members just lose and be like, oh, should they have had those invites? The answer is still yes. Yeah. They've been put in a situation where they're going to be playing some really tough competition, and whether they do great or whether they are the person in the lose-lose bracket, that doesn't reflect whether or not they should have been invited to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's just some thoughts that have been coming up about it. My personal opinion is they should have done this later and they should have restructured the tournament and put a little less money in it. And I think that would have alleviated a lot of issues. But
I agree. It would have been cool to see like a buildup of like, here's our very first MPL only tournament. Like, sweet, let's see
hard hitting, competitive. Exactly. This is what the vast majority of Magic players want to see. And
let's
then we can
see them like battle it out a couple of times, and then we hit like a big kind of like seasons end. Like the World Championship is always in the fall. Yeah, kind of like that feeling of event because you build up to it.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the tournament structure itself. We mentioned it's 2 losses and you're out. So this is double elimination. The players will be playing in groups of 16. There'll be a cut to Saturday and then a cut to a top 4 on Sunday. That's how it's going to work. And the gameplay, I mentioned it as a little bit wacky because it's the first time we're ever going to see this format in Magic for the history of Magic. Okay, so what it's going to be is best of 1 standard. You have to bring and submit 2 standard decks. They can be the same deck. If you're like, I'm all in on mono red, which I'm going to tell you right now, probably won't be a wrong choice.
Yeah. Best of 1 games.
I mean,
you can just get the job done real quick.
Go for it. Or they can be different. You do not have a sideboard. However, if you're playing a card like Mastermind's Acquisition in mono black, yeah, that counts. You can have a sideboard, whatever. But basically no sideboard. So who goes first? And which deck they play first will be determined randomly. So not only who's playing first, but which deck you're playing first. In the second game, players will use the deck they didn't play in game 1 in game 2. The player who went second in game 1 now goes first. Okay. So it's not even the loser. by the way. And then in the third game, you get to pick your deck again, and then it's randomly determined who goes first if you need a third game.
Wow.
So there you go. That is wild.
Weird.
My hot take prediction.
Yeah.
We're going to see a bunch of mono red.
Yes.
We're going to see a bunch of white weenie life gain.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, Nexus?
Who knows? That's difficult. If I were to...
Okay, say you're playing this. What's your take right now? What you bring?
I mean, personally,
Yeah.
I would probably bring a Nexus deck for anything that's mid-range.
Yep.
And then I'd probably bring a mono white life gain.
Yeah, I think that's
for
right.
for the mono red matchup.
Yeah, because you just can't ignore it. And mono colored decks are so much, they just have an advantage in best of one. There's just no other way to say it. They do.
Yeah.
And aggressive decks have an advantage in best of one.
Yeah.
Will you see anybody playing control?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
There might be people who feel like they've, I would love to see. My honest hope is that you get some people who are just like, this is my chance to go out there and bring a weird deck.
That would be great.
Here's my thing. Like, I would love to see a black-white, like, life gain control deck.
Ooh, spicy.
That could be really cool.
I mean, I hope we get deck diversity here.
Yeah.
I'm quite worried we won't, especially not in the MPL.
I feel like with
it's so much money.
Yes, that's true.
Like, you kind of don't want to be like, oh, this is my personal pet. I love this deck. I want to express myself with it because there's so
also, you
much
could be losing
money.
$250,000.
Like at some point you've got to be like, I can't even think about fun right now. I have to just think about making the right call, which is a little sad.
What's the dollar amount at which you stop thinking about fun? I think it's an important question, not only for this, but for life.
Yeah. It's a great point. Great point.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I have no idea.
I also have no idea. And I think these games are going to be real fast.
Yeah.
This is going to be a fast tournament.
Yeah.
That's my hot take. Unless Nexus somehow takes over and then it goes forever.
A girl can hope.
But who knows? So let's talk a little bit more about the controversy, which everyone wants to hear about the most about this tournament. Well, we already talked a little bit about the people who weren't invited and the controversy about people being kind of a little bit harassed about who was invited. Not cool.
Yes.
But anyway, so
not cool.
That was one of the big parts of it. The other big part of it was something that happened mostly on Reddit this past weekend, which if you don't know, Reddit is a big place where people go to talk about Magic at the r/MagicTCG account. Anyway, so what happened is one of the players who was invited was a Spanish streamer named Maffer. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, who's part of the Haruya Girls squad. And so she kind of was targeted, I believe, by some of the more nefarious parts of the Magic community who were not happy about her being invited because she had only streamed, I think, less than a day in terms of hours of Magic. And so they went after her and they found her Twitter account and they went back and read all of her tweets and all this kind of stuff. And what was found were a couple of really, 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 really offensive tweets that she had made in the past. Some are homophobic, some were disabled phobic. I don't know if there's a word for that, but they're, regardless, say you can go find them if you want to know what they said. They were very bad. And what happened is she apologized. She wrote an apology and admitted that, yes, she had written these. There's some kind of a little bit of in the dark of whether or not she'd actually written these. Yes, she said she had.
Because some people were like, she could be set up.
Yeah,
it could be photoshopped.
Photoshopped.
Yeah.
And she said, I was, something along the lines of, I was 13 when I started social media. I wrote some bad stuff. If you're offended, I'm sorry. By the way, I'm bisexual. So, in my personal opinion, this falls into the category of what we call nowadays a non-apology apology. Yeah. Where you're not accepting the blame enough for your actions and for what you did.
I'm sorry if you were offended is, by the way, never an apology.
You're like, please don't do that.
You find yourself apologizing for something, but then you say the phrase, I'm sorry if you were offended, realize that you're not apologizing.
That's
and
not
that
what
you
it
need
is.
to start over.
Yeah, press delete, start over. There is also a little bit of misdirection in this non-apology, which was to say I was 13 when I started my social media accounts. However, the truth is that she was either 18 or 19 when she made these tweets, not 13. So she started the accounts at 13. These tweets were made when she was an adult. And then it felt a little bit Kevin Spacey in the end to throw. And by the way, I'm bi.
Yeah.
I've got to say. Anyway, so there's that. There have been tweets since of her wearing gay pride shirts and this kind of thing. That's the information that we have there about all of that.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, and there's been a lot of debate about this. People have said, you know what? She apologized. She's changed her mind. People can change in 2.5 years. And maybe things, are different now. And you can't expect a 22-year-old to know how to write a proper apology. Or let's cut her some slack. I am of the belief that what she tweeted was so horrendous and the apology was such a poor apology that I cannot give her the benefit of the doubt. And that's okay if you disagree with me. But for me personally, it's just my take that it was just so bad. And the apology was also so poor that I believe her withdrawing from the tournament was what she did in the end, just took herself voluntarily out of it, was the right move. Wizards of the Coast, however, did not say that this was the reason for her withdrawal. They just said she's withdrawing. So a lot of people got confused on social media thinking she was bullied out of the tournament, which in one way is kind of true.
Is kind of true.
But in another way.
Which sucks about it.
Yeah. Yes.
That part is frustrating.
There is
sure.
also another part, I shouldn't report hearsay, but this is all hearsay. Someone saying she said, oh no, I was just tweeting that because that was part of this thing that said tweet the worst thing you've ever heard about gay people. And then that was debunked because no, it was on a hate thread of all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, take that with a grain of salt, but that was something else floating around on the internet about this whole thing. Anyway, that's my takeaway.
Yeah.
Personally. There you go.
I'll admit that I'm in the camp of you can change a lot, even in 2.5 years, and that people should be given that room to grow. However, I feel like the part that I don't like about this is the misdirection.
Yeah.
Where it's trying to make it seem as though you wrote this stuff when you were 13 and that was a very long time ago. If it was 2 years ago, own up to it and be like, yeah, do you know what? It happened 2 years ago. I've changed a lot in 2 years. Because at the end of the day, if I'm going to give you that ability to grow, I'll give it to you over a decade and I'll give it to you over 2 years. As long as you're being honest about it. Yeah. So I think for me, if she had been like, I wrote that stuff 2 years ago and my life has changed and I have changed a lot in 2 years, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Right.
I've certainly said stuff that I now disagree with myself on in the past.
I love that I disagree with myself.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope that people, anyone who knew me when I said those things would allow me now to be different.
Right.
But at the same time, I would also apologize for them.
Yeah.
And take ownership of the fact that I said them. So.
Oh, so there you go. That was a big deal. No answer on who the replacement will be. Yeah. In this tournament, or if there'll be one. I assume there has to be one in order to keep this match integrity with no buys. Yeah. So yeah, there you go. there you go. And then of course there's people.
What a wild week.
Who are upset about the best of one and in this weird format. Yeah. I say it's an invitational tournament. Have your weird format. Go for it. If this, but you know how I feel about it, best of three. I think that's the true way to play Magic, and I don't think I'm just being an old fogey about it. Saffron Olive. Oh wait, okay, hold on. We're gonna move on to something Saffron Olive said in a second. Yes, because along with this Mythic Invitational stuff that came out was an article by Aaron Forsyth and Chris Clay from Wizards of the Coast to kind of talk about their decision making process. Yeah, with this Mythic Invitational. And their thought process is, hey, Arena's new. It's a new way to play Magic. We have the access to digital now, which means we can make changes in the game and do things in the game, which we flat out can't do in paper Magic. So we're going to take advantage of that and try and replicate people's arena play experience in a tournament like the Mythic Invitational. Yeah. So they're excited for it. They're excited for the new possibilities of what Arena brings to the table. And I say, why shouldn't you be? Because there are a lot of cool stuff you can do in Arena, like the opening hand thing. You can't do that in real life. I mean, I guess you could, but certainly not in the same way that Arena does it. Yeah. Okay, so there's that.
Can you imagine a world, hear me out, where you've shuffled up and it's a best of one game in person. Okay. And I think the way that they've said that they would potentially do it the way it's done with like Two-Headed Giant, which is best of one, is that you get one free mulligan. But what if instead, hear me out.
Okay.
You shuffle up your decks and cut them, and then you draw one opening hand of 7 cards.
And another one.
And then you draw another one, and you get to look at each of them, pick one, and then you shuffle the other one back into your deck.
That's cool. I'd try it.
Okay.
I'd try it for sure.
But that has a lot of other things that go with it. Like, what if it, what if you know what your opponent is on and you can pick the better hand against them and that sort of thing. So that's problematic. Yeah. But I'm just saying, wouldn't it be kind of cool?
It would.
All right.
It would. I would be interested to see what kind of decisions that makes.
Maybe in the future we can try it.
Yeah.
We can make a little video for everybody.
We'll do an experiment
That's
for
just
science.
us like looking at our best
For
of one
you.
hands. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, yes, very excited. They want to try new things. And this article was called "The and" in quotation marks of MTG Arena, meaning MTG Arena is one thing, tabletop is another thing.
Yes.
We're not touching tabletop. I can make a comment here, but we're keeping it the same way that it is. And Arena is just an addition and a new way to play Magic, and you can play tabletop traditional way.
Yeah.
And their thinking behind having like these best of one tournaments here is that, and I'm going to quote here, quote, "Sideboarding solves many problems, but it does so with the addition of a process that is challenging to understand and master," unquote. And that's Chris Clay.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah, that's my argument here.
Yes. Like, it is difficult. It is challenging. It is difficult to master. Exactly.
So is the rest of Magic.
Yes.
Newsflash.
Right? Like, guess what? It's just another thing that you get to learn. I feel like they're looking at it of like, oh, you have to learn sideboarding. No, you get to learn sideboarding. You get to choose to be a person who's very, very good at it. Right? Like, some people, back in when Brad Nelson was like really hitting it hard with his standard career.
Yeah.
People were looking at it and being like, one of the things that he does better than anybody else is understand how to sideboard his matches. Absolutely. But you know what? There were other successful standard people at the time who were certainly less good at it, who were choosing to focus on other things, right? It kind of makes it makes it a more interesting game.
And this is where I wanted to bring up Saffron Olive, who does a lot of streaming through MTG Goldfish and has a very successful website and YouTube series and all that. He wrote a response to this in which he initially said what you said, Megan, that difficulty is why people like Magic, not in spite of it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're trying to chase that Hearthstone money, which, like it's obvious that they're trying to do. And honestly, they got into the game a little too late and they're trying to make up for it, right?
Yeah.
And sure, they've given us the option to play best of one on Arena and stuff. But in my mind, the thing that I really hope they don't lose sight of, which also what Seth argues here, is that Magic is the best game.
Yeah.
That is why it has survived for 25 years. And
that is why when you continue to develop Arena, it will continue to do well as long as you're doing it.
Yeah. So like the traditional way people have played Magic with the sideboard with best of 3.
Yeah.
Is why Magic has continued to exist and be successful in its forms. Hearthstone is fun. It's one-off. But after a while, I was a Hearthstone player.
Yeah.
I stopped playing it.
Do you know what makes me frustrated? Is it feels like they're looking at Arena and they're like, okay, what is the barrier to entry? Oh, it's the challenging aspects of Magic. Do you know what the barrier to entry is? That you can't play it on your phone.
Yeah, I agree.
That's the barrier to entry. Don't talk to me about other ones, because that is literally the number one reason when we talk to people who aren't playing Arena yet is the question that they ask, when can I play it on my phone? When can I play it on my Mac? When can I play it on my iPad? Yeah. That's what they're asking. They're not asking, how do I sideboard?
No, and they're not being like, this is too hard, I'm never going to get it. I just never had that thought when I was learning Magic.
Yeah.
It was hard, and I liked that it was hard.
Exactly. And again, it feels so good when you're playing and you made a great sideboard decision and you win a game because of it. You're like, yes, this is a way in which I can be a better Magic player. And it's really cool.
In Hearthstone, best of one, no sideboard situation, I got really tired of it. It was a coin flip whether or not I was going to win that game based on the deck my opponent was playing. And sure, I guess if you win, you're like, oh, hooray, I won. But you don't feel that good about it. You're like, well, I won because it was a bad matchup for them. I won because I got to go first.
Yes.
And that feeling leaves after a while.
I won because my opponents regularly only had 3 lands in play and then never saw another one. Because I had that happen where it's like I won 3 matches, but it's literally only because every time my opponent would get to 3 lands and then never draw another one.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yay, I won, but I didn't feel good about those games. I didn't even feel like I was playing games of Magic.
No, I was just clicking and putting a card out.
Exactly. It's like, okay, I wish that they had a second and maybe even a third game. So it's like, let's see what your deck actually does.
And I think having best of one, this is like not to like poop all over it. I think it's totally fine to have on Arena. It's great if you just want to go in for a quick mode, especially in draft, I think is where I don't mind it as much. But in the standard best of one competitive queue, or ranked queue, I should say, I'm going to call it what it is. It's a cesspool in there. And it's a cesspool filled with 3 decks. Mono red, Nexus of Fate. Never mind, it's 2.
Are you serious? Okay, I will say I'm going to disagree with you here.
Okay.
Because I've only played against mid-range decks for the most part.
In the best of one ranked queue?
Yes.
Oh,
I would play against Bant mid-range. I would play against like Golgari mid-range. And sometimes I would play against mono red or white aggro.
Well,
those were the big ones that I was hitting.
Oof. I've gotten out of the best of one queue on ranked. I've just stopped doing it and playing the best of 3 one. But anyway, what am I trying to say?
I don't know.
Best of one's fine. Okay. But I just really hope, this is my hope, is that Wizards understands why Magic is so good, why so many people love it and have loved it for so long. And it's not because it's an easy game
to play
and easy for people to get into. And I know you want more people and get them in maybe on Arena with your best of one, but like, please do not lose sight of the actual reason this game is so good.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. And I don't think you will, but
I'm going to say it one more time. If you're trying to reduce barriers to entry, guess what? You're real wide on the mark in terms of what the real barrier to entry is right now.
How do you put it on a phone? Look, that's above my pay grade.
I don't freaking know.
But there you go.
Put it on there. Just put it on a gosh darn Mac.
Oh gosh, that would be
to
so
start
great.
Out.
We
literally had that conversation yesterday.
Yes, we did.
You and I were hanging out at a friend's, and they were like, "Hey, how can I put this on my Mac? When can I have this on my Mac so I can play?"
Yep.
And we're like,
we were showing
buddy.
them. It was a new person.
It was
by the way.
Never played Magic. Anyways.
But yeah, the last point kind of from that article, which is the main one, is that something we knew, which is R&D has been instructed to develop for both best of one gameplay and best of 3. And that's why we're seeing cards like Knight of Autumn, cards like Ravager Worm, and cards like Bedevil in standard, and that kind of thing. So,
well, once again, we've spent hours.
Our podcast looks like the time's up. The podcast is over. Because we've been talking about this for 100 years. My beard is on the floor. But yeah, we would love to hear what you all think about this out in the community. If you want to send us a tweet at GLHF Magic, please do. Let us know what you think about all of this stuff. It certainly is a lot.
Shout out to patrons who can hop into the Discord chat.
Yeah, our Discord is
talk about it there.
Happening.
Hopping.
Thank you to UltraPro for being one of our awesome sponsors.
That's right. UltraPro, the place to go if you want deck boxes, sleeves with Grumpy Cat on them.
Look at these Grumpy Cats.
Really nice heavy metal dice.
Yeah, I've got these. They're called heavy. Oh, they are called heavy metal dice. That's literally what they're called.
I wasn't joking around.
If you're into heavy metal, the music, or cool looking dice, these are great. You get 2 20-siders, and they're very hefty. Like
these ones are shiny and chrome.
This feels like when you roll it, that you mean it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I'm not messing around with my opening, evens or odds roll.
I know that we've also talked about them so much already, but the guild sleeves are just amazing.
The guild sleeves.
They're so good. They're all great. They make me want to be every guild because I just want every guild's guild sleeve.
Same. And I don't want to be caught in a draft where I'm using the wrong guild sleeves.
Embarrassing.
Ugh.
So hop on over there.
Yeah.
Get some sweet new guild sleeves.
Yeah, you can find all of their gear on ultrapro.com, or you can check them out at cardkingdom.com/GLHF, and you can even ask for a sticker from Good Luck High Five in your order, and check out some of their cool UltraPro stuff that they stock over there too. It's time for a standard corner.
That's right. It's just a standard corner.
Just your average everyday corner.
Normal corner.
Nothing to see here.
So Maria, what have you been playing in Standard?
Ooh, great question. So I've been hopping back and forth between a few decks. And if you have listened to the show previously, you know that I've been playing a bunch of Boros Angels in Standard.
Right. That was your jam.
I loved it. Get those angels in there. Huge, big creatures that are excellent and frankly must be dealt with.
Yes.
Lyra Dawnbringer. We've got all of them. Resplendent Angel. I'm a little 3/3. Now I'm a 6/6. Now I can make a 4/4 when I gain life. Blah blah blah. It's a mid-range deck. Love that deck. So I've been playing it still. Turns out it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
In Standard. And now that I can play best of 3 on Arena with it, I like it a lot more. I've also been playing Wyatt Darby's Esper mid-range deck that he used to pilot to a 5th place finish at SCG Indianapolis the past weekend. I made a few tweaks to it, and so have people online that I've been playing. And boy, oh boy, Megan, is that deck just fun.
Yeah?
It's just a fun deck. I mean, I think it's pretty good too, but it's also just fun to play because you've got so many tools to deal with what's going on with your opponent. It has Basilica Bellhaunt, which gains you 3 life when it enters the battlefield and forces your opponent to discard. So it's good against mono red aggro and that kind of thing. It's also got
4 toughness is big.
4 toughness does matter. You need a lava coil to kill it. Hero of Precinct 1 gets you so much value when you're just spewing out tokens, playing your multicolored spells. Thought Erasure gets your opponent's stuff, like if I'm playing against like a Nexus deck or something like that, I can steal their Wilderness Reclamation or something like that, which can be super, super important. Or their Guild Summon if they're playing Gates, etc., etc. And then you've just got big stuff, like I put in Doom Whisperer the other day to replace Seraph of the Scales, which I think was a good change. And this other spicy inclusion that I updated my deck with yesterday, which is, oh gosh, what's it called? It's the artifact that gives all your creatures +1/+1, and then you can draw 2 cards at the beginning of your turn. And spells your blah, blah, blah.
Their planeswalkers can't be activated.
The sun.
Yep, the Immortal Sun.
The Immortal Sun. I have 2 copies of that.
The sun.
The sun, which I think is really spicy, especially when your hero has been going off and all of your tokens are now 2/2s. Anyway, the deck is super fun, and if you've been looking for something to try that's really interesting and has, you know, a fair chance against most of the decks in the meta, I think it's a good choice. I've also been playing a lot of Azorius aggro, which is the deck I play if I just want to win. If I just feel like winning.
Yeah.
Because it just does.
This got first place this past weekend in Baltimore at the Star City Games Team Open.
Baltimore.
Which this was team in that one person was Standard, one person was Modern, one was Legacy.
Yes. I love this team format. I think it's really fun.
Yeah. So tell us about this deck.
So this deck has been getting more and more popular. It's got just your basic white weenie shell, which is all the creatures you remember from when people were playing Boros aggro, but no heroic reinforcements. Instead, we've got Deputy of Detention as your card that you're splashing for in the main deck. Everything else is white. So Tithe Taker is one of the new cards in this set, but there's only a one of in the winning deck list, at least from SCG tournament. And then your sideboard, you know, you have access to permission spells, so that's why you have blue in there. Anyway, this deck just, you know, spews creatures and wins. And Deputy of Detention's pretty nice sometimes. So there you go. By the way, if you steal somebody's Hydroid Crassus with Deputy of Detention, it's gone forever.
It's gone forever.
Bye. Same as
Comes
with
back as a 0/0.
Yeah. Right to the graveyard. So there's that. Anyway, deck's really good. And if you're playing best of 1, that's a good choice right there. But yeah, I think those are kind of 3 a little bit different decks that I've been having a great time with. How about you?
So Maria, I've been playing your nemesis.
Yes.
Nexus of Fate.
Oof.
Taking turns. Oof. I've been playing the version that is 3 colors.
Yeah.
Which is Bant because it has Wilderness Reclamation, obviously Nexus of Fate.
Yeah.
Search for Ascantas and Wilderness Reclamation. Did I already said that? No. Did I already say it? Did I say it once?
This is like
I should just say it again.
That you are the deck
Wilderness
right now. I'll say it again. Did I say it?
You're just drawing
Nexus.
cards. Literally, you're just drawing cards, and eventually you're taking all of the turns.
So a lot of people. How does this deck win?
Your opponent concedes to you.
Okay, that doesn't count.
Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can win.
Great.
Which I have, first off, I have one copy of Expansion Explosion.
Ooh,
and the only way to cast it is because the deck also runs Gift of Paradise.
Yeah.
So you have to have a Gift of Paradise in play. But what's really cool is that every once in a while, even if you're not able to chain turn into turn, if you have enough lands and enough wilderness reclamations in play, you can just kill them. Because if they're only at 20 life, you can get up to X equals 20 relatively quickly.
Wow.
As long as you're setting all of your stops appropriately. So that's one way. The other way is like, if they're going to make you do it, hopefully you haven't discarded Expansion Explosion yet.
Yep.
But if you have, the other way you can is that you ultimate a Teferi.
Yep.
And then you exile all of their permanents over the course of a couple of turns. And then you just start letting them take their turn again.
Yeah.
Because they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Because you have exiled everything, including their lands.
And so eventually you deck them.
Exactly. Okay. Which you can do because if you're going to deck first, you just have your other Teferi out. Or, the same Teferi that you ultimated it. And you just you tuck it into your own library. And if that's the way, if you get to that point, usually once you've exiled like 10 of their permanents, they concede.
I'm done.
So
I'm done with Magic forever. I quit.
Exactly. Every once in a while, like I don't like to discard Expansion Explosion because it's if I want the game to end soon and they might not be a person who concedes, I want to keep it. But sometimes you just got to discard it because you've got better stuff. And you're like, I'll just take my time.
I have a question for you though.
Yes.
Like, is it fun?
Yeah. I'm having a great time.
Explain yourself.
Is my answer. It's just, I love it because it's a little, honestly, it plays, in my opinion, most like a combo deck. It has no counter spells, right? You usually think of blue as being the color of counter magic, but in this case, all that you're doing is drawing cards. Because you're looking for your Nexus of Fates or your ramp spells early in the game or your Teferis. And then eventually it's just to the point where you're going to hit it every time because you get one look with your search for Azcanta, you get a look with the Teferi, and then if you still haven't found it, when you untap with Wilderness Reclamation, you can just look again, and at that point you found it.
Yeah, this is sometimes where I feel the most crushed by this deck because I'm like, maybe they won't find it and I can have another turn.
And I'll be honest, I think that most people at this point have figured out that most of the time, if I have a flipped search and I have a Teferi, that's when they'll concede. Yeah. Because my chances of not hitting it are essentially zero.
Yeah. Do you think it's really that low?
It's not. It's not technically zero, but it's so low. Yeah. Because you have 4 copies of the card in your deck. Because even if they make you discard, it just gets shuffled back in. You cast it, it gets shuffled back in. Yeah. And when you only have 20 cards in your library and 4 of them are Nexus of Fate.
Oh God, you're right. It does seem like zero.
You're just gonna I
wonder what it actually is. Frank Karsten, call us.
So anyways, I get it. I get that people don't enjoy playing against it. My answer to them is don't make people play it out. Yeah. If they have those two things, I'm not saying if they're not close, don't do it, obviously. Yeah. Maybe they'll whiff. But if they have a flipped thing, or
it's pretty impossible.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, they're not the person stressing out. I'm not stressing out while I'm doing it. I'm just waiting for my opponent to concede and, just having fun in the meantime.
I think the reason people might not be conceding is the reason I just said maybe they'll whiff. But now the way you explained it to me makes me think that that's essentially not going to happen. Yeah. 2 is some people on Magic Arena, we've talked about it before on this show, do not have a win condition in their Nexus decks. And a very famous, now in Magic World, incident of this occurred during a stream
last week,
where Shahar Shenhar was streaming and playing against somebody playing a deck that had no win condition. So no Expansion Explosion and no way to win.
No Teferis?
I don't know.
So I think the issue that happened with this is that Shahar was playing Control and he had countered all of his opponent's win conditions. Oh, okay. Because again, like I said, I don't expect people to concede necessarily if they haven't seen a Teferi yet or something like that.
That makes sense.
But if I have a Teferi out and I'm taking all the turns, I'm just going to exile your permanents and that's my win condition. Yeah. But in this case, he had countered all of them. and the person playing him only had 3 Nexus of Fate in their deck. Like that was it. That was the card in their deck. And Shahar was tapped out.
Oh my gosh.
And so his opponent was just playing Nexus, it shuffles in, playing Nexus, it shuffles in. And they did this for 2 hours.
2 hours this happened.
2 hours.
Eventually, Shahar was like, I'm just going to do this for charity. Please donate while I'm streaming versus this as I keep this up and give money to charity, which was pretty cool. So somebody from Wizard of the Coast, Chris Clay, who we talked about a little earlier, was actually in chat for this happening and was able to ban his opponent for 2 hours, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it looked like the opponent conceded, but if effectually they were just banned.
Yes.
And my reaction to this is we cannot put a Band-Aid on this problem by just happening to ban people when you see it happening on stream, which whatever, I guess you can make.
And it makes me mad. Like, don't give turns players a bad name by doing this.
Yeah, that's
it's
also
bad
sucks.
behavior, right? I hate that if I'm like, I love playing turns and people are like, oh, you're going to be the person who has 3 Nexus of Fate in their deck and all you're doing is just waiting for me. It's like, no, I would never do that to you.
Yeah.
If I had 3 Nexus in my deck and that was it and no Teferi or anything in play, I would concede because I can't win.
I hope that they're working on a solution to this problem because I don't think you should be able to submit a deck if you have no win condition. And we were talking about this, but like, how do we make sure this happens? Because this person technically did have a win condition in the Teferis. And Meghan had a great answer, which we don't know how to make codes about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But what was it?
If it can look at it and say, if it looks at the board situation and says, the only card in your deck is Nexus of Fate and there is no Teferi or Teferi emblem, then it's a draw.
Yeah, and this is like helped out by coding cards in Arena as this card can win a game. Like this is a win condition potentially, and not. And
if there are none in your deck,
none left in the deck,
or
none on the
battlefield,
board, then you lose.
Yes. I don't know if that's even possible. And people were saying, I heard, and I don't know how true this is, that I think perhaps it could be a loss for you if that's all that you have left, because in paper Magic, what would happen is what you're doing is a loop.
Yep.
And a judge would basically just be like, how many times do you execute the loop? And you would be like, 1 million.
Yep.
And they would be like, okay, now the 1,000,000 times are over and it's your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it would be a draw or if it should be a loss.
Okay.
That would have to be people with more judge experience and knowledge than I would have to look at that situation.
Yeah. So let's try and fix this. And please don't be the person who plays this deck without a win condition.
Yes. Or
PSA.
who keeps playing after they're all gone.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that it's a perfect deck.
Let's talk about quickly who won the SCG tournament.
Yes.
And what their decks were, in case you're curious, for Legacy Standard and Modern, which it seems like a super fun tournament, and by all accounts was super fun for the people playing in it. And, you know, I've got to give a hashtag Minnesota represent, because we had some Minnesota representatives winning the whole thing.
That's right. So at the first place team was Jacob Hagen, Ryan Overturf, and Liz Lynn. They were playing Azorius Aggro in Standard, Teamer Phoenix in Modern. No surprises.
No.
Hot new deck. And Demir Death's Shadow in Legacy.
Ooh.
And that was kind of a hot new deck as of PT 25th anniversary.
Yeah, that was the new innovation.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
And then in second place, the modern decks were Mono Red Phoenix, Grixis Delver in Legacy, and Sultai Midrange in Standard.
Yeah, and Sultai Midrange is kind of the new hotness now, popularized by Brad Nelson, who's saying it's the best deck, and a lot of people agreeing. So let's take a quick look at this deck, which has the card that a lot of people are calling the best card in Standard right now. We've got Hydroid Crassus. This list particularly only has 2 copies of it.
Yeah, interesting.
But it's so good because even if you cast it and it gets countered, you still get the life gain. You still draw the cards.
Yep. There's also a Biogenic Ooze.
This card is a must counter or a must kill.
Yeah.
And is very scary.
Yeah. Quite a good card. It also has 2 Karn.
Okay.
And then 3 Vivian Reed in this particular one.
So this is just... These cards are all great. Put them in the deck.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Then there's also in third place, the standard deck was Bant Tokens.
Oh, okay. This sounds cool.
Yeah, right. This has the tokens notably are 4 Amara, Soul of the Accord, 3 Tristani, Discordant.
Okay, makes sense.
And then 4 March of the Multitudes and 4 History of Benalia.
But don't forget about Hydroid Crassus because
That's
there's
right.
3 in this
There's
deck.
also 3 of that. 4 Incubation Druid, new ramp spell of choice.
Yes. You can ramp very, very fast with the Incubation Druid into some nasty stuff, particularly if you're playing Hadana's Climb.
Yes, exactly. So the Incubation Druid, this is 1 in a green for an 0/2. It says tap, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control would produce. If Incubation Druid has a +1/+1 counter on it, add 3 mana of that type instead. And then it has 3 green for adapt 3. But notably, it doesn't care if you adapted it to add those 3 mana.
No.
It just cares that it has a counter on it. So you can play this on 2 and then something like Hadana's Climb on 3.
Boom.
Put a
Tap for
counter
3.
on this and you have 3 mana.
Yeah.
You had 6 mana on turn 3 at your disposal.
Wow.
So it's pretty sweet.
Wow.
I will say, I love people thinking that mid-range decks are the best deck in Standard because it is the sweet spot for turns. It is. That's what you want to play against.
Absolutely, it is.
It is. There's just honestly, if like the first thing that someone plays is the green, like an overgrown tomb or something, I'm just like, thank you. Thank you for this.
Oh, this is great.
Look at all of your cast outs that you're not going to use. All
beautiful.
of your ravenous chupacabras. Honestly, people can play Hydroid Crassus and draw 4 cards.
And you're
At
like,
the end
whatever.
of the day, I don't care.
No.
I'm just gonna fog your 1 relevant attack, and that's it. Sorry, I just want to talk about turns all day. Can I tell you about the sweetest play?
Oh, yeah.
The most beautiful thing about the turns deck is that sometimes as early as turn 4, because you have things like Growth Spiral and Gift of Paradise, is that you can play a Teferi, right, on turn 4 or 5, and then you draw a card with it, even though they have a bunch of creatures, and you untap 2 lands, and then you just fog their attack. It feels unbeatable. It
probably is.
Unbeatable.
And it probably is.
Oh, it's so good. Anyways,
there's a lot of new cool stuff floating around Standard, as it were, right now.
Yes.
I am really looking forward to Pro Tour Cleveland, or as we now call it, Mythic Championship Cleveland, which is a tabletop paper tournament. So I feel like we need to kind of qualify what we're talking about here, and getting a shot to see what the pros think is the best deck in a really high level tournament like that. I think will be pretty cool, which is coming up later at the end of this month, Megan.
This month. Holy buckets.
Yeah, the weekend of February 22nd.
Yeah.
Pro Tour.
Okay, so not to be that person who's like, we're talking about cats. Let me show you a million photos of my cats. I'm going to tell you one more story about turns.
Megan just has pictures of turns in her wallet. Look at this.
Pull out my phone and scroll through them and show people. No, so I accidentally entered a best of 3 event, which is like the traditional constructed, with a deck with no sideboard.
I've done it.
And I still
Didn't matter.
won. Like all of the mid-range matches. I ended up dropping at 4-1 because I was just doing it for gold. for more draft. For more gold. But if I could win game 1, do you know what? No sideboard, I could just win game 2. It was.
Turns out sideboards don't matter at all. Everything we're saying is a lie.
After we talked about how important it is, sideboards are still very important. And there were matches, right? Like mono red. I don't know if I can ever beat it, but
yeah,
dang, it felt good.
It's time for a brand new Flavor Text Theater, and we don't have any packs to crack.
That's right.
In
So
our studio.
we're cracking a virtual pack.
Virtual pack.
And to add to our giveaway, since we can't add virtual cards to it, we'll just put in an uncracked booster.
Oh, excellent.
Of Ravnica Allegiance in this month's giveaway, which, by the way, you can enter.
Yes.
In the show notes.
in the show notes.
Or in the link below if you are watching this on YouTube.
Okay, so this Flavor Text Theater is called The Hottest New Deck.
Yes.
And we're going to invent some decks for you.
Okay.
If you want to actually make these decks, I mean, go for it. I would love to see what you make. Anyway, so I'll kick things off with our mythic that we virtually cracked.
Yes.
Which is Dovin Grand Arbiter.
Ooh.
Full name, Dovin Bond.
Yes.
Megan, have you heard about the hot new Dovin Grand Arbiter deck?
No, I
It's
haven't.
the hottest new deck in Standard.
What is it?
Okay, what happens is you take Dovin, you put 4 copies in your deck, and then you take 4 copies of every other card that's been banned in Standard because his name is Dovin Ban. So we're going to play Rampaging Frostodon. We're going to play Ramunap Ruins. We're going to play Dovin Grand Arbiter just because the deck's namesake. And then we're going to concede to everyone because we're actually kicked out of the tournament.
Wow.
What do you think?
What a hot new deck.
Hot new deck. Hot new deck. Megan, have you had your eye on a hot new deck recently?
Yes, my hot new deck is built around the card Lawmage's Binding.
Ooh, what the heck is that card even do?
And Lawmage's Binding says enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated.
Ooh, okay.
And what we're going to do is we're going to play all the greatest creatures in blue and white, and we're going to play 4 copies of Lawmage's Binding, and then we're going to bind our own cards.
What?
We're just going to bind our own cards, and then we're going to stand up and give our opponent a hug if they want one. And then we're going to concede because we Lawmage's Binding all of our own creatures.
That's fair.
What do you think of my hot new deck?
It sounds really bad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also really great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. The hot new deck that I've been thinking of is Vindictive Vampire Tribal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so this is a 3 and a black for a 2/3 vampire. Whenever another creature you control dies, Vindictive Vampire deals 1 damage to each opponent and you gain 1 life.
Oh.
Okay, so the deal with this deck is if your opponent does anything like kill your creatures, fog your attacks, whatever you want to be, attack your life total, you are going to be personally offended. And the way that this works is that anytime one of your creatures dies, you specifically have to cast a burn spell at your opponent's face, but only if one of your creatures dies in combat or is countered or something like that. So you have to be very vindictive with what's happening. You cannot cast these spells unless you have been offended in some way by what your opponent is doing.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Yeah. Taste that
Nice.
retribution. What
Okay.
other deck have you had your eye on, Megan?
So in this deck, we're going to take 4 copies of a red card, and I'll tell you what it is in just a
Ooh,
second.
okay, great.
And we're going to put it together with a whole bunch of other red cards. But then when we're shuffling up, we're just going to take our deck and we're going to switch it with our opponents. And they're going to be like, what? And then we're going to attack them
Ooh, that sounds
with their own
cool.
creatures. And we're going to be like, look at the deck that you're playing and you'll understand why. And they're going to open up that deck and it's just copies of Active Treason. It's just copies of Active Treason.
that deck's
That's
going to
the
be illegal.
hottest new deck.
That's a hot new deck.
It's only copies of Active Treason, but you're playing your opponent's deck, so joke's on them.
I love that idea. I'm going to bring that to the next GP.
Oh, thank you.
But not before I bring my very favorite, hottest new deck.
Oh, what is it?
It's Territorial Boar. So we have 4 copies of Territorial Boar.
Okay.
And the rest of our deck is filled with the most boring cards in Standard. So this is all 2/2s for 2 with no flavor text. Anything that just really, really sucks is
Yeah.
going in our deck. And it's going to be so boring. Like the opponent's going to beat you pretty easily. But once again, joke's on them because it's the most boring
Yeah.
game of Magic they will have ever played.
They will ever play.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to hear about my next hot
Ooh,
new deck?
yes.
Okay, in this one, you build a whole deck,
Okay.
but then you put it aside. You go get your law degree.
Okay, this takes a long time to play.
Then you become a practicing lawyer. And then at your very first trial, you're going to reach into your bag and pull out this deck. It's called Bring to Trial.
Oh, that's a great
Built
deck.
around
I never
Bring to
thought I'd
Trial.
hear about a deck that took longer to play than Nexus of Fate.
But there it is.
There it is.
At least 3 years of law school.
But Megan, what about this hot new deck?
Okay.
It's for fans of William Riker on Star Trek.
Okay.
Specifically when he brings out his flipping tuba. What's going to happen is you're going to sit down across from your opponent. You're going to pull out whatever brass instrument you prefer, either a tuba, a trumpet, a bassoon. No, wait, that's a wind instrument. Never mind. Whatever you want. And
French horn.
French horn. You're going to play it in your opponent's face. You can play a nice song. You can play a bad song, but you just have to play it in your opponent's face. Anyway, the only cards in your deck are 4 copies of Rakdos Trumpeter. That's it. That's it. That's it. There's no lands. There's no lands.
There's no lands. Oh, very nice.
So that's my new
Well,
hot
these
deck.
are some pretty hot new decks.
Yeah. So if you want to try out any of these decks,
Yeah, let us know how it goes.
send us a list, even though
with the hashtag hot new deck.
hot new deck. even though we know what already goes into many of them.
Yes,
Like-
but send us the deck list.
Please send us the deck list.
Hashtag hot new deck.
Well, everybody, that is our show for this week. I'm trying to like move my microphone up and down, like you know how you kind of do the glasses behind your ears, like.
Oh,
It's not
I was
working.
just moving myself away from the microphone.
We covered a heck of a lot in this episode. I've
Yeah,
got
we
to
did.
say.
Yep.
Gotta say. Remember before you stop listening and you go on with your exciting life.
Yeah.
To check us out on patreon.com/glhfmagic.
Yes.
And please, please, please consider becoming a supporter of the show if you're not already.
Help us through what is truly, honestly, a little bit of a difficult time
Yes.
in our professional careers.
Like, hopefully we've been here for you when you needed it, and now we're sincerely asking if you can be there for us, and it would mean a lot. So patreon.com/glhfmagic is the link to go to. You can support for any dollar amount, like $1 is totally fine. You become a member. Just, whatever you think you can spare in a month. Also, once again, thanks to Card Kingdom for always having our back and being great sponsors, and UltraPro as well for the same reasons. You can check us out on YouTube this week. We've got new box opening videos that are going to be posted. We've got our board game reviews. We're on Twitch streaming 3 days a week.
Hot
Wow.
dang!
We do a lot of stuff.
Any day of the week you want to check it out. Check it out. You can. Oh, man.
Megan's done.
That was my poem.
It was really good.